Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd make a video that I have been procrastinating on because I actually put up a survey on LinkedIn whether if this was going to be useful, and a lot of people said yes. I just haven't gotten around to do it. I haven't been making time to do it. But anyway, today I'm going to talk about what you need to know about unconventional reservoirs. Before we get to the content, please be sure to like this video, subscribe so you can get more content in oil and gas and professional development topics, and please be sure to comment on the video below so you can incorporate your feedback into future videos. Please be sure to hit that notification bell when you do subscribe, because I upload whenever I want. Well, let's get to the content. As I mentioned, today I'm going to talk about what you need to know about unconventional reservoirs. Now, this is not going to be a lecture where I put together a PowerPoint and everything that you need to know about unconventional reservoirs. Rather, some of the resources you need to peruse, some of the short courses you may want to consider to bring yourself up to speed on unconventional reservoirs if you do not have that background. I've met a lot of people, for example, that have come from different basins that are not unconventional reservoirs. For example, people that have worked in Bakersfield, people that have worked in the Gulf of Mexico, for example. Those are different types of assets compared to unconventional reservoirs. Now, you may also be asking, what do I mean when I say unconventional reservoirs? I'm talking about shale reservoirs. I'm talking about shale and tight reservoirs. Reservoirs where you are producing from the organic rock, from the source rock, and you're hydraulically fracturing the source rock, as opposed to a conventional reservoir where you have a source, trap, seal, and a migration pathway, and it is not a source rock for conventional reservoirs. And I'm also referring to onshore applications here solely because that's been my primary experience, and that's the topic that I'm most comfortable in speaking about. So now let's get to talking about what you need to know about unconventional reservoirs. So the first thing you need to know about unconventional reservoirs is that you actually don't need to forget everything you need to know about conventional reservoirs. What I mean to say is you still need to know decline curve analysis, you still need to know IPR curves, you still need to know VLP, vertical lift performance tables, you still need to know your basic production reservoir completions engineering and drilling engineering as well. So what I would suggest is take the Professionals of Engineers exam. Now you may be wondering, there are no unconventional topics in the PE exam, no matter what state I apply to. Well, that's the point. You need to beef up on your conventional reservoir engineering skills. That way you can approach with a mindset of what you can do when you are met with a shale and tight reservoir, or if you're met with an unconventional reservoir. So if I were you, actually look and save your books that you have taken in university in reservoir production, completions, and drilling engineering, and in petrophysics as well. The key difference here is that you're going to have to expect different behaviors than what you typically see in the plots that are in the conventional reservoir textbooks. That's why I say beef up in the conventional reservoir engineering space. Once you beef yourself up in the conventional reservoir engineering space, the next thing I'd like for you guys to do is to take a short course, depending on the number of years of experience that you have in unconventional reservoirs. SPE has a plethora of unconventional reservoir engineering, unconventional geomechanics, unconventional production engineering, decline curve analysis, like production forecasting, for example. I've taken all of them. And that's the reason why I know that there are courses out there that are provided by the Society of Petroleum Engineers in unconventional reservoirs. So if I were you, take a look at the SP website and look at those courses, and I'll put the link in the description box below to give you an idea as far as what kinds of courses that are out there. And I've just named a few. And SPE reviews those courses and updates those courses every single year. So you'll see what kinds of courses that are provided from the Society of Petroleum Engineers. Now, if you don't have the means to take a short course, or you don't have the time to sit 2 to 3 days or even a week long for a course, then what I would do is do some self-paced learning. And the Society of Petroleum Engineers, once again, has a lot of webinars in terms of unconventional reservoir engineering or unconventional reservoirs in general. So being involved with the Society of Petroleum Engineers and taking those webinars and through SPE Learning, and I'll put the link in the description box below, is also a great way to bring yourself up to speed in unconventional reservoirs. There are multiple applications, such as in the Permian Basin, the Bakken, the Rockies, or in the DJ Basin, for example, in the Eagle Ford, you name it. There are so many applications, and the recommended SPE papers, for example, that will help you understand what those applications look like in unconventional reservoirs and how people are positioning their conversations whenever they're talking about unconventional reservoirs. You may be wondering, this is just another SPE plug, but to be honest with you, it is, again, because getting yourself involved in professional sections that are close to the fields of shale and tight or in unconventional reservoirs is the way to go. So for example, if you are in the Gulf Coast section in Houston, if you're tuning in, which the majority of my listeners and viewers are a part of, you will have some exposure to the Gulf of Mexico or offshore assets. However, there's a plethora of unconventional resources topics from people who work remotely on those assets and work in a variety of operators. So getting involved in the Gulf Coast section is a great way, and getting involved in the study groups, particularly the completions and production study group, the reservoir engineering study groups, and there are plenty of study groups. I'll put the SPGCS website in the description below that can give you some insight as to how to bring yourself up to speed in unconventional reservoirs and how people are talking about unconventional reservoirs as well. So I would say getting involved in those professional sections. The next professional section I would suggest you get involved is the Permian Basin section. And I am local to the Permian Basin section, and I'm not trying to give a shameless plug, or I may be giving a shameless plug there. But I think getting yourself involved in the Permian Basin section and knowing what kinds of lunch and learns and what kinds of topics that are being talked about and what kind of interest is there among people in Midland, Odessa, and the Permian Basin area, it's going to be a great way for you to get ahead of the curve when it comes to unconventional reservoirs. It's where all the activity is. So another thing you need to know about unconventional reservoirs is connecting with people that have had the experience in shale and tight. So I'm a person that has had 10 years of unconventional reservoir engineering experience. Right when I got out of school, I started working in the field in unconventional reservoirs. I started understanding the nature of unconventional reservoirs. So for example, decline curve factors in unconventional reservoirs are different than in conventional reservoirs because of the transient behavior that is experienced in a longer period of time in unconventional reservoirs compared to conventional reservoirs. The petrophysics, for example, of what you're looking for in a log is going to be different because you're actually looking for the source rock as opposed to looking for the source, trap, seal, and the migration pathway in a PEF log or a photoelectric log in unconventional reservoirs. So those are some examples that I would suggest talking to people that have had the experience, that have the set of eyes, and that have worked for operators that have predominantly large assets in unconventional reservoirs is the way to go. Getting involved in the Society of Petroleum Engineers is an avenue to have access to those people. But I would say that tap into your network and start asking people, go out for a coffee, go out for an SPE lunch and learn or something like that, and see who else is in the space of unconventional reservoirs, what they see, what are their observations are, and what are their perspectives and insights are when it comes to the shale revolution. And if you don't have access, what I would also suggest is to look into the investor relations presentations of operators that have a lot of assets in unconventional reservoirs, and particularly paying attention to how they speak about their unconventional assets and the longevity of those assets. And then listening to the presentation and then the analyst questions that are being asked about unconventional reservoirs is a great way to look at that too. The last piece of advice that I gave, and I just thought about this as well because I had a conversation with a colleague about this, is that looking into analyst reports from public data sources or public data source companies like Enverus, IHS is another way to go as far as bringing yourself up to speed in unconventional reservoirs. Looking at those analyst reports, and I'll put some links down in the description below. So free articles that those organizations give out is a great way to bring yourself up to speed in unconventional reservoirs and to see how people are talking about that information. So I would suggest you look into that too. Well, folks, that's everything that I could think of everything you need to know about unconventional reservoirs and where to get all your information. If you are somebody that is coming into this cold, I hope I give you some ammo in order for you to get ahead of the game when it comes to unconventional reservoirs. Knowing who to talk to, knowing what resources to tap, knowing who to speak to, knowing where to go, knowing what section to sign up for, knowing what emails to email, and knowing who to follow on LinkedIn, for example, is going to be very key to bring yourself up to speed in unconventional reservoirs, because there's something new about unconventional reservoirs every single day. And you can read all the SP papers in the world. I could list all the SP papers that I know of when it comes to unconventional reservoirs, but that would overwhelm you. And I'm sure the information that I gave you would overwhelm you as well. So going to OnePetro and searching for unconventional reservoir basins and looking particularly for the Bakken, Permian Basin, Midland Basin, Delaware Basin as the sub-basins, looking at the Eagleford, looking at the DJ Basin, looking at the Powder River Basin. I mean, the world is your oyster when it comes to unconventional reservoirs, and I have only named just the tip of the iceberg in the United States. For you to find unconventional reservoirs, I'll try to find a map for you, and I'll put that in the link in the description box below. That way you get an idea of the breadth and depth of unconventional reservoirs around the world if you're tuning in internationally, because I do have international viewers and listeners as well. As usual, please be sure to like this video, subscribe so you can get more content in oil and gas and professional development topics, and please be sure to comment on the video below so I can incorporate your feedback into future videos. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed recording it, and I hope to see you in the next one.